Everything on the screen will be recorded.
Thank you, Kayla. We're ready to go. All right, good evening, everyone. It's the Board of Variance meeting for Thursday, April 1st, 2021. We can call to order the meeting for this evening. And a note to everyone in attendance and everybody watching, this meeting will be live streamed and video recorded for the public. You got everybody in? We're good to go? Yes. Item number 2, introduction of late items for this meeting. We have an addendum that was emailed to the board members in addition to the application BOV 749. It is the Sun Shadow Study Plan. Can I confirm that all other board members have received this edition?
I haven't checked on it.
Okay. Do we have any paper copies?
Yeah.
If Nelson would like that.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Board members, you've been able to receive that emailed addendum?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you. We also have another late written submission for which we were not able to have sent to us electronically prior to the meeting. So I believe that we will now show the email so everybody can access it at the same time and we can review it now. And then if it becomes relevant to the application, we can review it again at the time.
Yeah, and it's just in a different tab.
So bear with us as we get access to the email that came in today.
Can everybody see this email on the screen right now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we'll just give you a moment to read that. And if there's a second page, we'll scroll in a few moments.
Thank you, Lainey.
Has everybody read that page? Are we okay to keep scrolling?
Yes.
Yes.
My question is, why is the name blanked off if somebody's making an observation about the issue?
We can direct that towards staff. I don't know, is it privacy?
Yeah, respectfully through the chair, we have requirements the name is on that email, so we're only allowed to share the name. We have to block out any personal information, so their address, phone number, and their email is all redacted for privacy reasons.
Okay, but the heading of the email is the name, is that what you're saying?
It's their email address, I believe.
The heading of it is their email address?
Yeah, if you scroll up. It's
Right.
Yeah, so that would have been their email address, so we had redacted that, but their name is, so Jacob Lucier.
Thanks, Nelson. Has everyone had enough time to review the letter and we can move on?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda for this evening is to adopt the agenda with the 2 additional addendums that have been presented tonight. If the agenda is approved, could we have a motion to do so? Thank you, Nelson. Approve the agenda. May I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So moved. Next item on the agenda today is to adopt the minutes of last month's meetings. The minutes of the Open Board of Variance meeting held here in the boardroom on Thursday, March 4th, 2021. Have all the board members had a chance to review the minutes and any comments or concerns? And if not, we could have a motion to approve the minutes as they are.
I move approval of the minutes as presented.
Excellent, thank you. Could we have somebody second the approval for the minutes?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. All in favor? All right, okay. Minutes approved. All right, so, thank you. Moving on to our presentations and the applications for this evening. All right, our first application is BOV 00749, and the civic address is 5524 Cliffside Road. All right. Now, there's quite a bit to review in the purpose and the regulations here. The zoning bylaw number 4500 permits a perimeter wall height up to 7.32 meters in the R1 zone, except on rear and internal side yard elevations where a perimeter wall height of 9.14 meters is permitted when the wall face does not exceed 7.32 meters in width. The applicant is requesting to vary the perimeter wall height from 7.32 meters to 9.3 meters on the east and the west elevations, and to vary the perimeter wall height from 9.14 to 9.5 meters on the south elevation. This represents a variance of 1.9 meters on the east and west elevations and 0.36 meters on the south elevation. There's an addendum which indicates that the zoning bylaw number 4500 requires that a single residential dwelling with a flat roof pitch of 412 or less within the single dwelling residential R1 zoning does not exceed a height of 7 meters. The applicant is also requesting a variance to construct their single residential dwelling with a flat roof up to 9 meters in height, and this represents a variance of 2 meters. So the sections of the zoning regulations that apply here are 7.6.1, size of buildings. The maximum height of a principal building for a flat roof building is 7 meters. Section 7.6.6, the size of buildings, notwithstanding subsection 7.6.1, the maximum perimeter wall height may be increased on rear and internal side yard elevations to a maximum of 9.14 meters, provided any rear wall face over 7.32 meters in height is a maximum of 10 meters from the rear property line. No wall face over 7.32 meters in height shall exceed 7.32 meters in width and must be offset by a minimum of 0.61 meters from any adjacent wall over 7.32 meters in height. And any eave or gable end associated with a wall face over 7.32 meters in height must not exceed 8.5 meters in width and must be offset by at least 0.61 meters from any adjacent eave or gable end which is associated with any adjacent wall face over 7.32 meters in height. So these are the relevant zoning regulations for this application. Do we have anyone present who would like to speak to this application? And if so, could you please take the mic and tell us who you are and what you would like to say?
Yeah, I'm Michel Brulette.
And I'm Robin Brulette.
And James Galita is also on the call. He's the architect that helped design this property. Our background is we're both in the aerospace industry. We've been living in Ottawa since 1998, And James Kalisa and Anthony Bruni designed the house that we currently live in Ottawa. Since 2000 is when we've been here. We've lived and visited locations across the country. Robin's parents moved to Nanaimo in late 2013, and we visited as early as February 2014, and we discovered the beauty of Nanaimo and Vancouver Island and the facilities that Nanaimo has to offer the city. And we were looking for a location to retire. And so during that period of 2014, we looked for some real estate in the area, and we found a lot, and immediately saw that it had tons of upside potential and also some fairly significant challenges, especially with respect to the rocky surface and the steep slopes that are on the lot, including a cliff. We bought the lot in December 2014. After consulting with the city planning department about being able to develop a lot, because of we had looked at some other lots that actually were close to the water, and they were subsiding and they were unbuildable, and so we just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to run into issues like that. And I also consulted a local builder at the time to discuss constructing, building her house on that lot, and he didn't have any concerns about that. So that was, I guess, the extent of our due diligence at that point. After purchasing the lot, we researched the building height limits in the city, and became apparent that the calculations that are used don't really cater terribly well to a steeply sloping lot like we have. And I approached the city planning department early on, it was in 2016, and asked if, whether there would be any issues with respect to getting a height variance. I sort of expecting to either hear like no way, no how, and that's not the response I got. The response I got was, informally was, yeah, there's some flexibility depending on what the conditions are. And so anyway, that was a company feeling. And so anyways, in the past few months, we've introduced ourselves to our neighbors via mail because of COVID. We really haven't been able to visit Nanaimo since Christmas 2019. And we received 2 responses from those letters that we sent out, and they were both positive. One of the residents is at 5567 Lock Lake Road, and the other is at 5530 Cliffside. So one of those residences is like one of the older houses that's below the cliff, and the other is right next to us that shares the driveway. So we made an application to the Board of Variance to be able to get variances for building height and perimeter wall height. And that's where we're at today. So I'd like to know if you need me to walk through the package I sent, or would you like to proceed to questions?
Thank you for speaking to the application. Before we take the questions to the floor, is there anybody else who would like to speak to the application? Okay. Well, at this point, generally, we can start our discussion, and any questions about any details of the application can be directed to you. So, board members, take it away.
I've got a couple of questions, I guess. One of them, probably the biggest one, is it is a challenging lot. Looks like the building site itself is about 10 feet, is that right? 10-foot difference from front to back on the actual building site?
That's correct, yeah.
So yeah, it is a bit of a difficult lot for sure. I kind of know what other, like this is it's a high building, definitely from the back. It does look big. What other things are you trying to do to mitigate the extent of this variance? Like, because it's quite a bit. I'm just curious, what there's going to be any other design? Is this the first and only design you've had, or is there one trying to challenge, to work with this? Or I'm sure your architect could maybe say something.
We did have another design that we looked at. The problem is that if you're going to make a two-story house on a lot that moves 10 feet in the length of the house, you're just going to have to. There's no way you can actually do that without either excavating a lot of rock, in this case, or else, and then you're disrupting all the natural drainage patterns for the lot and destroying the natural beauty of the lot, to be quite honest. And or else you're going to be building a single-story house.
But just wonder if there's been any attempt to maybe step the building down a little bit as it goes through, not all on the same plane.
So that's the other problem, is that because of the lateral sort of constraints that we have, I mean, there's the cliff sort of shift. It basically splits the lot into two, right? If we're going to build on the upper portion of the lot where the driveway is, then we have to, then we've only got a limited amount of space that we can put the footprint of the house on. And then the other thing is, when I read the way the calculations are made for the building height, you'd still take the lowest portion and the highest portion. You know, you basically take all four corners, take the average, and then you look at where the top of your house is, and that's the building height. And it certainly would change the mass of the house if we step it down, but it wouldn't change the building height.
Can I address that? Have a few comments if you'd like to let us in, please. I don't know if you have the images that we submitted with the application of the house in the three-dimensional aspect, because in the elevation, I grant you that because you're only seeing it in the flat plane, it does appear larger than it really is. And we spent a lot of time with regards to, first of all, locating the house, and that has to do with trying not to upset the natural geography and landscape as much as least as we could. We were aware that there would be privacy issues. The building is located more or less in the center of a rather large site, and you'll probably notice that the setback from neighbors are quite significant, which helps with the privacy issues. But with regards to the massing of it, we spent a lot of time to make sure that the scale of the building would be addressed and appear to be much smaller, especially in its cruciform form, and just the articulation of that mass, separating the garage so it wasn't part of the mass. So there was a conscious effort to mitigate any appearance of a large mass. The other thing you have to remember is from the road, relative to the road elevation, this structure is probably within the height limit easily, and we were really challenged with reducing the technical calculation of the height with the slopes and locating the building so we did not upset the natural landscape that we didn't upset the natural landscape and have to remove substantial amount of trees. There is also a geotechnical report that talks about and directs us where the house is best located to deal with seismic forces. So all to say is the location was really well thought of where the best location would be, and there was an effort to reduce the scale of it, and I personally think from the road and from the neighbors it is not going to appear as a massive structure, and it's not going to appear that the increase in height is really impactful.
Thank you for some clarification. Alan, does that address some of your concerns regarding the design of the house? And did you have any more questions to follow that up with?
No, I think that's probably it. It's a little hard to read some of these drawings, so what are the heights of the walls, the inside walls, each floor? Are they 9 foot ceilings kind of thing?
Yes, that's correct.
9 foot ceilings, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There was some, I think I was reading somewhere here, there was some reference to a geotechnical report. I think from Lukowicz maybe, or whoever it was, and was that report, did that indicate where the safe building site was supposed to be, or is that how they, all about? We don't have a copy, at least I didn't get a copy of it.
No, I didn't, okay, so I didn't provide a copy. There is but yes, the building, sorry, that geotechnical report was updated in 2019, and what they said was that from the toe of the slopes, so the toe of the cliff, a 45-degree plane, essentially upwards from that, would be the setback from the edge of for the building, and that applies to the slopes in every direction. So there are slopes on the west side of the property, on the south side, and on the north side.
Okay, all right.
So it does limit the buildable area by quite a lot.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Alan. Ken, Dariush, Nelson?
I have a question. First of all, I want to just comment on the quality and the amount of information presented. Very detailed, and there's a lot there, most of which I think I understood. But I do have a question related to this issue of undue hardship, which of course is the board's test when looking at any variance applications. I realize that you've chosen the footprint and the design of the house, but perhaps someone could explain in fairly simple summary terms that even I could understand just what hardship is being or would be alleviated by increasing the height, the allowed height of the structure on that wall.
Thank you, Ken. Could we have a response from any of the applicants to clarify the hardship?
Sure. I mean, the building site itself is a remnant from a subdivision that was built over 10 years ago. Nobody's developed it in the interim period because of the difficulty with developing that lot. A lot that costs, $400,000, I don't think anybody's going to want to put a 2,000 square foot house on that. And so if we're going to build a house that, that we're going to be able to live in our retirement years and have space for, family to come and visit and all the things that people want to do with houses, then we need to have a 2-story house on that lot. Even though it's a huge lot, there's only a certain amount of it that's actually usable as a building site. And so the hardship is that we could expend hundreds of thousands of dollars excavating, 25 cubic meters of rock to meet the requirements, or else we could not build a 2-story house, which, most of our neighbors in the modern part of the, not the houses were built in the 60s, but the houses that were built in the 2000s, most of those houses are 2 stories. And so that's basically the hardship. I mean, we can, if this was a flat lot or if it was a lot that was made of something other than rock, we could easily meet the requirements for height. But because the lot is not a flat lot and it's extremely not flat, and it's made of bedrock in general, then we can't, we won't be able to develop it. to any great extent. And so that's what the hardship was.
But just to build on that point, if I may, I think the R1 zone contemplates a two-story house, a building. This is a two-story house. The hardship comes from, as Michelle was saying, is from the nature of the site, i.e. the sloping characteristic of the site, causes the hardship that you really can't build a two-story house unless you start excavating rock and disrupting the natural environment. So I would have to say that the hardship, the root of the hardship is really the sloping of the site.
Thank you. Ken, does that give some clarification for you?
It does. What I think I heard is that it's essentially a financial issue. Is that kind of what it boils down to?
I don't think it's purely a financial issue. I mean, certainly that's a component, but the fact is that we can't build like James has said on the R1 zoning is designed to allow a two-story house. 7 meters isn't a magical number. It's obviously designed to make a two-story house with a flat roof, and we've got, and that's what we're building. I mean, we're building a two-story house on a lot that's really sloped, and it's a 3 meter. There's a 3 meter change in elevation from one corner to from one end to the next, or to the far end, and we're going to be 2 meters above the 7 meters because of that. And it's not because of any other reason.
Great.
I see. So, sorry, Ken, if the house essentially was redesigned so that it conformed to the height requirement, i.e. 7 meters, what would that do to it?
It would be a one-story house.
It would be a one-story house, correct? But it would also take up much more site area. And to expand the footprint of that building, because of the sloping site, you can't just easily do that. So because the buildable area of the site is so small, and you want to build a certain size house, you naturally go to a two-story house. Unfortunately, the two-story house, when you do the technical mathematics of calculating the height, although it's just a two-story house, it seems like it's a three-story. But it's not. It's a two-story house. And it's perceived to be a two-story house on the street, much the same, and in the same context, the same spirit, the same characteristic as the rest of the houses on the street. When you're going down the street, this doesn't appear any higher than any of its neighbors.
Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to add to what James just said. Part of the, and in fact, from the street level, because if you noticed on the elevations, there's a bridge that goes to the front entrance. The house is actually stepped down. I mean, like the driveway level is almost a full story above the foundation levels for the house.
Yes, I did see that. Thank you.
I just have one small question. The issue here is really the back of the home, is that right? It's where the drop-off is. And you've got 2 floors, basically 10 feet each, 9-foot ceilings, and blah, 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 flat roof. And what's the crawl space underneath that? How much is the crawl space going to be?
Nothing. There's a small area at the very south end of the foundation that's actually going to be because it's sufficiently. We're not going to have to excavate. Actually, everything else is going to be backfilled, or else it's going to be the natural rock elevation.
So a little bit of the storage area at the bottom area, but not a floor.
No, it'll be a utility room.
Yeah,
and that'll be it.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Dariush, any questions for this application.
Thank you. I'm not sure if much of the question, but I just wanted to say, first of all, very welcome to our beautiful city. The second is looking is I think the building sitting properly in the best location of sites available is more flatter, higher area, and it's lower than the street for sure. And because of the challenges of design of the dropping the property, this is a two-story building. It's just a foundation wall. You see that those additional 2 meters in the foundation wall they have to raise. And majority of these heights they are in the south side where we don't have a very neighbor close by. So I think the reason for 7 meters and 9 meters for flat and 7 for slope is more for view basically blocking the neighbor view and shadowing to the neighbors. And this property is already, I think it's big enough and they don't, as you see in the shadows, but it's not shading others. I think hardship will be view of the neighbors, and I don't see any complaint from view of the, from neighbors for they blocking the view. Obviously, this is against stepping down. You have to be careful about what you are making precedent for other projects. That's the challenge we have. For this project, I personally, because of the design and the location side, I think I don't see any problem. But again, that's the thing we have to be very careful. We don't put the precedent for when the flat society come and ask for again 9 meters height and blocking the others view. My basic question is maybe to staff, do you have any complaint from the 3 neighbors in the back?
The only item that we received was the comment shown at the beginning of the meeting, and I do not believe he indicated that he had a concern for his own view, just that he wanted the board to make these considerations when looking at the proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dariush. Nelson, anything to add? No. Okay. I do have some.
I have one more question.
Sure, Alan, please.
The views of the people outside the area that get notified. So on the south side where they're not being notified if they're far enough away from the property, will they be able to see this building, or will you not be able to see it anyway?
They'll be able to see it as essentially as a one-story building from across this side, you mean?
Yeah, I was thinking about the backside where it's higher and overlooking over the cliff and going down that way. Is there people that wouldn't have been notified that would be looking at that up the hill?
Yeah, so some people down on Sunridge, I guess, just on the west side of the house.
Yeah, I guess I'm not familiar with the area, but I'm just wondering what the ones that wouldn't have been notified, because I think there's only a certain amount that do get notified.
Yes, you're right. I mean, there are some, the people that would be, let's say, across the street from the people that were notified, would still be able to see the house, but it would be even further away. The visual angle would be even smaller. I think that the people that are most affected are the ones that are adjacent to us, and even then, because the setbacks are fairly large, the way the house has been sited, I think the visual angles are fairly small, and we don't really cast shadows on those properties.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the shadows. I was just thinking about the view, just the aesthetic, looking at it from a distance.
Sure, they'll be able to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Great, thank you. If I may, I'd like to direct a couple questions towards the applicants. You had mentioned that there were letters of support when you initially reached out to the neighbors. I don't see them as part of our application package. Is there any reason why they weren't submitted to support your application?
They came after we submitted our package to the city. They were emails, and they basically said we have no objections. One of them, the people at 5530, said they really liked the aesthetics of the design, and the other party that lives at 5567 Lost Lake Road just said that they had no concerns and no objections.
Okay, it would be helpful, we don't have access to those, but those are very relevant to help us understand how this development is perceived in the community. I do want to talk about...
I could forward those. I mean, I could forward the initial email exchange if you would like.
For myself, I think at this point, unless any of the other board members would like some, I take your word that there is support in the neighborhood, but when we review these packages, those additions play into our perception of the package and the community's opinion. So it's great that there is community support. We do have a letter that came in today, which does pose some really significant questions. And I know Darius already alluded to the fact that setting a precedent can be, that's tricky waters. So I wanted to ask about the 7-meter versus the 9-meter. You consistently come back to the challenges of the lot as being the main hardship for development, but you've got a 2,000 square foot footprint as is right now. And in Nanaimo standards, as far as a footprint goes, that's pretty substantial. Like, there's a lot of small houses in the city. So 2,000 square feet to start as a footprint seems very, very adequate. Again, architectural design, totally up to the owner and the designer. But the 7-meter height applies to buildings with a flat roof or up until 312 pitch. After that, can go up to 9. So essentially, it seems like you're asking for a variance to allow for the height of 9 meters, which would be applicable if you had a pitched roof of 412 or more. So it seems to me that you can absolutely build a 2-story home on this lot if you were to include a roof pitch that isn't like 412 or more. So I'm not sure how the argument for not being able to build a 2-story home on this lot holds. It basically is coming down to architectural design, and you are, with the flat roof design, the limitation of 7 meters is restrictive, but is not so if you changed your architectural design. So I feel like that, I struggle with that and not being mentioned as a hardship. Architectural design and your personal preference for a flat roof over a pitched roof isn't really a hardship. And the fact that you have indicated with supporting documentation, including, a geotech report and your architect, that there's at least 2,000 square feet of a footprint that's buildable on this lot. So again, the area of the house is very reasonable, regardless of the lot size. So I'm struggling a bit with the hardship, as Ken pointed out earlier. Did you have any comments regarding my questions about the height restrictions and how I'm perceiving it? The bylaws say 7 meters versus 9 meters in roof pitches. There's nothing built there now, so it's not that the hardship is that something exists and we're asking to change it. There's the potential to have a different architectural design that doesn't require this variance.
Well, I was going to say that as soon as you put a pitched roof on it, you increase the height of the building by a significant amount. It's not like the pitched roof is free. It ends up increasing the height.
I understand, but then your sidewalls are decreased. The entire architectural design would change, but you can still put a 2-story home in a house with 412 or 1212 meeting the 9-meter height restriction.
Okay, but the impact on our neighbors is nothing. I mean, there's no impact to them for us doing this. I mean, I understand that there's a concern about precedent setting, but this lot is really sloped. And I understand what you're saying, that, 2,000 square feet is a pretty big buildable area, but I don't know too many people that live in 2,000 square foot houses that buy $400,000 lots.
Unfortunately, lots.
That's just me. I mean, no, I know that might sound elitist, but I don't think it is. I think it's reality.
Okay. Thank you for your feedback. Again, I just was wanting to clarify my position on the height variance request and whether hardship justifies it. And lastly, yeah, I think that's it. I'm the application is very thorough, and it's one of the best. Lots of renderings, lots of information here. I don't have any further questions for the applicant. Any other board members want to follow up with questions, concerns? Or
I have one further question, Jess.
yes, please, Ken.
The information that we received today, the email from Mr. Lucier, do we know, or can we say if he's one of the neighbors, or if he's not directly affected? We didn't see any address, so we don't know which property is his, but is he one of the neighbors?
Thank you, Ken. That's a good question, and I can direct that to staff as to whether or not they can release the information about where the letter writer is from.
Yeah, because Jason's not here to disclose that information, all we have is this written email. We cannot disclose the address, but as you guys, as the board members know, we only send out notices to those immediately around the neighborhood, and anybody, we elicit responses from anybody who deems that they have some sort of interest in this variance. So we're expecting that anybody who believes that they have interest in this specific request will email us if they have any concerns. So we can assume that this person has interest, but we cannot confirm their address.
Perfect, thanks. Ken, does that clarify enough for us to have an understanding about the letter writer?
No, it doesn't, because I assumed that already. The question is, if this is a neighbor, how close is he? But I guess that the question has been asked and answered.
We'll never know. Great, thank you, Ken.
Can I just respond to the notion of the slope roof and the steep capability of height? In my opinion, the slope roof, that house would come off as larger than it appears to be now. And if the intent is to keep the structures in a certain height through the bylaw, I would suggest that the flat roof, in fact, would look and appear less impactful than a structure with a slope roof. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. We're not clear, and I can ask staff if there is a clarification of the intent of the bylaw as to why you can have a 9-meter height with a sloped roof, but only a 7-meter height with a flat roof. And at this point, it's not clear in the application, but I think from some of the renderings, it's, in my personal opinion, a big mass with a flat roof would have the potential to block a lot more view than a building of the same height, but with a sloped roof. And when you drive around the neighborhood, that entire neighborhood is pretty much full of homes with large gables and some steep, but definitely 412 or more pitched roofs. It's just the aesthetic of the neighborhood, which the letter writer alluded to. And I don't think that architectural style should be questioned here. Whether you like flat roofs or not, it's more a question of the intent of the bylaw, and if the bylaw is to let's say, avoid large masses of a certain height, which have a very different feel in a neighborhood than a peaked roof, just in terms of how much space that takes up in an elevation. Again, I can't speak to the intent, and I could pass that off to staff, whether there is a clarification on that or not.
Yeah, I'm happy to try and explain this as best as I can, respectfully through the chair.
Thank you.
And addressing the architect's, sorry, I think James was his name, comment about having less impact. So I'm not sure if you guys can see my hands, but I'm trying to represent this. So obviously a pitched roof is like a V shape, a flipped over V shape. So anything that's in the view is only the little peak part. If we have a flat roof, anything within this area on the flat roof is going to be impeding views, especially in this specific case if you're asking up to 9 meters. So it's not just the peak area that is within that, it's the entire structure of the flat roof. So the intent, my interpretation of the intent of the bylaw is to limit flat roofs from being that entire, the volume, I guess, of building within that height is going to be less if it's pitched versus if it's flat. I hope that's clear. But yeah, obviously with a pitched roof, the volume of building that is up to 9 meters is less than the volume of building of a flat roof. What I also want to add clarification to is that in our residential zones, it does not speak to the amount of stories that are permitted in a residential zone. We only speak to the amount of height. So the intent of the bylaw is to regulate height only, not necessarily how many stories you're getting within that height.
Great, thank you for that clarification. I think that's really relevant here, especially since we continue to address the two-story issue. And 2 stories is desirable in many architectural designs, but not required in the R1 zone, or not the intent of the bylaw anyways. Thank you, Lainey. Considering some more information here, any other questions from board members or applicants? Concerns?
Yes, I would like to address this issue of slope and flat roofs again. And I wish you had in front of you the three-dimensional, maybe you do the three-dimensional imagery that we prepared for this, because we can't talk about the roof without entire mass of the building either. This building is in its north-south direction. It's only 1 room wide, so it's not a big massive house. And the reason that it's only 1 room wide is because of the way that it was designed. It's acoustical. It's not a big mass. And personally, I think, given this mass that sits on that site rather delicately and responsibly and respectfully, that footprint came out of setting that house on that site in a very conscientious way. So we ended up with a cruciform or a form in plan that happened to be what it is. And when you elevate that up, and we did look at slope roofs, and they look funny. They didn't respond well to the footprint that came out of where we could put this building. So it naturally lends itself to a flat roof. So we have to be careful that we don't talk about roofs without talking about the footprint and the actual mass of the building. And we spend a lot of time articulating this building, and it does step back with decks and the bridge into it, etc. And so it does not come off as a large building. And in my professional opinion, with the slope roof, it would come off larger and it would look awkward given that plan.
Thank you.
And one more point on that. When you're looking at this site and you talk about the other houses around it, Slow Blue, they're on certain sites and certain lots that are not this configuration or this size. It has more of a contextual responsibility in that type of environment. This lot is big, it's set off by the south, and this house is more of an object with sitting on that site rather than part of the streetscape. So personally, I think it could be different, and it should be different than its neighbors that are built in an entirely different context, different lot patterns, different lot configuration. So I would really hate that and I'm getting a bit emotional now because we did spend a lot of time looking at sun studies, views that are part of this program from neighbors' backyards, looking at different ways to articulate it, trying to stay out of the seismic stuff, trying to keep as many trees as we can. And I think this design is appropriate and it belongs on this site. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the architectural significance of this house, but here we're talking about the requested variances, which have to do with sidewall heights and roof height. And architectural style preferences, they're personal, and whether or not they can play or, I guess, affect a hardship. It's been recognized that the lot is buildable, and after that, the hardship, it becomes a question of, do we allow this variance because the designer feels that that is the only building that is appropriate for that site architecturally, because structurally, there's 2,000 square feet of buildable area you could put other houses on there that would not require a variance. So this is really, in my opinion, coming down to an architectural design question, not what's possible. It's a beautiful home, and there's been a ton of work that's gone into this application, but I just question the hardship, because you've proven that the hardship is the fact that the lot is difficult to build on, but you have resolved a footprint that is buildable. Now, the next question is, you can put many different structures on that footprint, many of them that wouldn't require variance. And so now we're just talking about an architectural design preference that you would like that requires a variance, and that's kind of setting maybe a dangerous precedent.
Madam Chair, I'm just wondering, is one of the tests on whether this variance is appropriate or not the impact of what's being proposed? Does that roll into any of the tests to determine whether the variance is appropriate or not?
I'm sorry, I didn't clearly understand the question. Could you state it again, please? I may have to direct it towards staff.
Okay, I'm just wondering, if one of the tests determine whether the variance is acceptable or not, the impact of what is being proposed, because we went a lot to show that there's no sunlight impact, there's no view impact, that there aren't very many impacts to tell you the truth. So I'm just wondering, is that a valid test to determine whether the variances are appropriate or not?
I can direct that towards staff, please. Thank you.
So through the chair, in discussions with the property owners, we did talk about the hardship and the type of application that should be applied for. So there are two types of applications that you can apply for when you're requesting a variance. One is a development variance permit, development variance permit application, and the other one is a Board of Variance application. So in discussions, we advise everybody that when you are going to the Board of Variance, it is your mandate, it is their mandate to consider a number of things, but one of them is certainly the hardship that it causes. Now, that's what the Board of Variance is here to do. They also consider impacts on neighbors and a number of other things, but a hardship is the reason why an application would go to the Board of Variance versus going to council through a development variance permit. Through a development variance permit, you do not have to prove hardship. Of course, council is going to take into consideration views, impacts on neighbors, a lot of those things, but in a development variance permit, we don't consider hardship specifically. At a Board of Variance meeting, we do. So that is, of course, why you're asking them about hardship.
Yes, thank you. So according to your application, you have stated your hardship, and that's been the focus of a lot of the discussion today, which you have indicated is the challenges with the building site. But that's up for debate. It is a challenging site, but there's clearly been a solution where there's a footprint that's appropriate as a buildable site. Now, whether or not that, now that there's a footprint, the variance requested doesn't limit any building from being built there. Many types of buildings could be built there, just not the one that you would like to be built there. So, yes, Nelson, please.
A question through you to staff.
Thank you.
When you have a development permit application or a Board of Variance application, at the staff level, is a determination made by staff, this appears to be a hardship, so it goes to the Board of Variance, and it doesn't appear to be a hardship, so it's a development permit.
Yes, respectfully through the chair. So staff does encourage that the applicant review the criteria which is required for a Board of Variance application and to best make their own determination. In this case, it was discussed and originally recommended that a development variance permit may be more suitable. However, the applicant discussed that they wish to proceed with the Board of Variance application.
Excellent, thank you. Is that adequate for your response? Thank you, Nelson. Does anybody else have questions? Should we carry on the conversation? And if not, we could have a motion if anyone was willing to put one forth regarding this application. Nelson, please. Thank you.
I'm going to get this on the floor. Make a motion to approve application DOV 749 to vary section 7.6.1 and 7.66 of the zoning bylaw number 4500 in order to increase the maximum height of a principal building with a flat roof from 7 meters to 9 meters and to increase the maximum perimeter wall height on the east and west elevations from 7.32 meters to 9.3 meters and on the south elevation from 9.14 meters to 9.5 meters in order to construct a single residential dwelling.
Excellent, thank you, Nelson. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the application. Would any member like to second this motion? Show of hand, please, like if there's a seconder. I do not see a hand to second this motion. Therefore, this motion is dead.
The motion has been, is dead, and now a new motion would need to be made.
Thank you. So the motion to approve the application is dead, and we need to follow that up with a second motion, if anyone would like to present an alternative. Hi, Dariush. Yes, please.
Yeah, through the chair, sorry, I do have a question for staff. Before doing that, I think this is the choice of the design, and obviously this design, I do like it because of the cantilever and all nice things happening, and I don't really think it's bothering the neighbors, but the question is here, if we do approve this application today, is that going to go to council basically, and the neighbors, they have option of choice to come and do the present themselves?
Yes, so through the chair, they will have an opportunity to present their application. If the application is denied today, I think, if I'm understanding your question correctly, Dariush, if it is denied today, the applicant will have the opportunity to consult with staff to apply for a development variance permit, and then the application would proceed to council. There would be a notification of the neighbors, a re-notification for this new application, and then council would consider it based on its merits. And if it were approved today, then it would not go to council.
Thank you, Lainey. And I do have a question through staff, just to follow that up, that I know with the Board of Variance application, if an application is denied, the applicant cannot take that same application back to the Board of Variance, but my question is, are they able to take that application, same application without any amendments or changes, and apply for a development permit? The alternative, I'm sorry.
Yes, so you're correct. They cannot reapply to the Board of Variance with the exact same application. They could come back to the Board of Variance with a substantially different application.
Yes, thank you.
That's correct if it is denied. And they can go to a development variance permit with the same ask. Whether or not staff is going to support it, that's going to go, we'll talk about all those types of steps through the development variance permit process.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Does that provide any further clarification for other board members about the application process? Thank you. So we have one motion which has been defeated. Would anyone like to make a second motion regarding this application? Which is really the only alternative one at this point. Thank you, Ken.
I move that the board deny application BOV 749 to vary section 7.6.1 and 7.6.6 of zoning bylaw number 4500 in order to increase the maximum height of a principal building with a flat roof from 7 meters to 9 meters, and to increase the maximum perimeter wall height on the east and west elevations from 7.32 meters to 9.30 meters, and on the south elevation from 9.14 meters to 9.50 meters in order to construct a single residential dwelling.
Excellent. Thank you, Ken. So we have a motion on the floor to deny the application. Could I have a show of hand if there was someone who would like to second this motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a seconder. May I see hands for those who support this motion to deny the application? So 1, 2. We've got Ken, we've got Alan, Dariush, not support. Thank you.
I don't support the motion.
Okay, I do support the motion to deny the application.
So was it 3-2?
Yeah. So on record we have who is it, Alan and Ken and myself to support the application, or support the motion to decline the application. Thank you. Follow up for this, can I direct it to Lainey to let the applicant know how to proceed?
Yeah, so the application has been denied, and Sadie or myself will follow up with the applicant to talk about what steps we can do to apply for a development variance permit, if that's the route you choose.
Understood. I just want to say that I'm quite disappointed that the package that we submitted to the city to go to the Board of Variance did not go to the Board of Variance in total. There were were missing elements, and I don't know why that was the case. But that should not be the way the board is given information. When the applicant provides it, it should be provided to the board, and I was not impressed by that. I only found out about that this morning. But I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your application, and good luck in the next steps.
Jess, just before we move forward,
Yes, of course, Ken.
those last comments of the applicant are a little bit disconcerting. I'm not sure what he was talking about. Through you to the staff, was there information that was not given to us?
I feel like at this point, Ken, could we have save this discussion for when when our applications are over? Only in so that the staff and the members can have a out of the public record conversation about this. I think that would be the more appropriate route. I also would like to know, and we can address it at the end of the meeting. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Excellent, thank you. We'll just try and get this next application going on. If there's no other issues, we'll move on to the application BOV 00750. The civic address is 3230 Singleton Road. The purpose of the application. The zoning bylaw number 4500 requires a minimum setback of 6 meters for all garage doors and carport entranceways facing a street on a single residential dwelling. The applicant is requesting to reduce the required setback for a garage door from 6 meters to 4.47 meters in order to legalize the existing dwelling setback and allow for a proposed addition on the east side to the existing attached garage. This application represents a variance of 1.53 meters. The zoning regulations are single dwelling residential R1, and the applicant requests a variance to the zoning bylaw number 4500, section 7.5.3, which says that all garage doors and carport entranceways facing a street on a single residential dwelling or duplex must be set back at least 6 meters. So this is our second application. Do we have anyone present who would like to speak to the rationale and the hardship of this application? Hi. Tim, do you want to give us...
Unmute myself?
There we go. Thank you. Yes, please. Hi.
Okay. So originally the house was built before zoning had occurred, and the house or the garage itself was built at 4.47 meters from the setback. So we would like to build or add on to the garage to make it from a single garage to a double garage, not encroaching anywhere further than what the garage itself is at this point. And so the hardship would be if we were to set the garage 1.5 meters back, there wouldn't be a garage.
Okay. And can I just ask, Tim, you were the one that submitted the letter within the package. Did you could you just reiterate what the hardship is in this application? Is it just it's a lack of garage? Or part of what we want to do is assess the hardship of the application in order to grant the variance or not?
Okay, so if we were to add on to the garage, and we would have to put the addition of the garage 1.5 meters back from where the original garage is right now. The amount of room that we're adding on to would not make a garage at all, because the garage that's there right now is only 19 feet deep. So if we put 1.5 meters back, there wouldn't be a garage there at all.
And just a question regarding the description of the proposed renovation is that you are going to create a double car garage. So
Yeah,
there's an addition as well.
No, that is incorrect. What I'm doing, sorry, my name's Stuart, I'm the applicant.
Hi, Stuart. Thank you.
And what I'm doing is I have a 2-bedroom, 1.5 rancher currently right now.
Yeah.
And my partner and her 2 boys are coming to spend a bit of time with me, and I'm building 2 extra rooms and building out a bit of the bathroom for them to have rooms when they're here. In order to have adequate space for the 2 bathrooms, or the 2 bedrooms, building off the front would make sense to make the aesthetic view from the road parallel with what it is right now. It wouldn't change the aesthetics from the road at all, and it wouldn't impact anything that's not currently there. I figured if I was putting the 2 extra bedrooms in the bathroom, then adding a little bit of extra space on the side to be able to pull a second vehicle into the garage would be beneficial. It would make it aesthetically pleasing from the front, and it would prevent me from having extra corners in the house.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification of the design. Any other comments or concerns or comments, I guess, to support the application from the applicants? Tim, you guys are good?
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, I'll take it to the floor then. Members, how would you like to address this application?
Yeah, well, I went looking for this today, and maybe I missed it, but is this the house that's essentially under renovation? When you look at it, it's, or maybe I was at the wrong address, I'm not sure. I was looking for the number. I couldn't find the number.
Oh, sorry. A lot of people have a hard time finding my address because my house was built before a lot of the other ones in the neighborhood. So as you turn onto the street, you see my house. It's directly at the very end. It's not on the left or the right. It's the first house you see as soon as you turn onto the street. As you drive down the whole street, it's the one at the very end.
Very end of Singleton Road?
That's correct.
And to the left of that, isn't there a strata in there somewhere?
As you turn left from the front of my house, there's the strata complex up the left-hand side, and as you take a right, you go onto Granite Park, which leads down into the other new subdivision that's been built.
Okay.
But back of that corner, I was looking at a house that had some exterior work being done. It appeared to be renovation, but I couldn't see a number, so I don't know whether it's your house or not.
No, that was not the house. There is a house across the street which is being completely renovated.
Okay.
If you drove straight down Singleton and didn't turn left or right, you would drive right into the house.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Board members, any other questions for the application?
I have a question.
Yes, I can.
To Stuart, I guess. Sorry. To Stuart, have you had any reaction from your neighbors? I spoke with my neighbors, Jim and Diane Bates. Diane came over and I spoke with her about what I was doing, and I had positive feedback from her. She was pleased to see me move forward. And she is, what, on either one of the sides of you, or where is she? Yes. As you're looking at my house, she would be my neighbor on the left, the first house in the strata community. Okay. No other reaction from anybody else? No. All right, thank you. You're welcome.
Dariush, Alan, Nelson, any other comments or concerns?
No, not really. Just I guess so. Everything you're doing there, that addition that goes down the side of the building, is all doable, from what I'm understanding, except for the front where the garage is. And with the current bylaws, you would need to step that back. Is that what you're saying, then? So you'd have a split garage, one being shorter than the other one, and skinnier. Yes. Yeah. Yes. And there's no real way for me to move farther at the back without busting into extra bedrock, which is there, and that's not really feasible. Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah.
I have a question for staff. 6-meter setback for garages and carports, the intent of that bylaw is to allow for adequate off-street parking. I guess I'm posing it as a question. Is that the intent of the bylaw, and is there any other reason why we should be trying to be mindful of the 6 meters?
Through the chair, my interpretation of the intent of the bylaw is, as you say, to allow for adequate off-street parking, and also to emphasize the facade over garages, but I think the main thing is the parking, and I will just request that Lainey add anything if she feels that I've missed something.
Yeah, I'll just reinforce what Sadie said. It is to get adequate off-street parking because the general car is a certain length.
Okay.
I will just note that in the parking bylaw, the minimum requirement for a stall length for a parking stall that is 90 degrees is 4.6 meters. So that is to accommodate the average size car.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lainey. Darius, hi, did you have...
May I address it?
Yes, please.
Okay, the part that I'm actually asking to have the setback in would not be feasible for a parking spot regardless, because there is a hydro pole and its supports come down to the edge of my property line, which would prevent any vehicle from parking there first. And second of all, I actually built extra off-street parking for anybody at the strata unit to use directly in front of my house. I built a wall and sort of a space where the garden used to be that anybody at the strata can use as a parking spot, and people use it on a regular basis.
Thank you for the clarification. My concern was just is clarifying the application in that I also noticed that there is a light standard directly in front of where a second parking spot would be. And when I initially read the application, I was under the impression that it was to create a double car garage from a single car garage. And clearly that would be problematic based on the city infrastructure that's there. But if the intention is not to create a second parking stall and extend that garage for vehicular use, then that's a non-issue. So it was just, for myself, it was a clarification of the intent of the application. Thank you.
So, sorry, Jessica.
No.
I just want to clarify, I read, when I was reading the parking bylaw, I read 4.6 meters. That's for a small car. It's actually 5.8 meters is the average stall length required for an average size car, which again speaks to why we would require 6 meters out in front of a garage.
Thank you for clarifying that so we all know. But there is currently no issue with this applicant in adequate off-street parking. Is that correct? Sorry. This application doesn't have it's not creating conflict with off-street parking.
Not as I understand it, no.
Okay, thank you, Sadie. Hello, Ken. Hi, please. Ken and Dariush, we'll go Ken first.
Just, I guess, an observation that should this application be denied, that will do nothing to improve the existing parking space. There'll still be 4.47 meters, which will not meet the either 4.7 or the 5 whatever meters. So to deny this application on the basis that it doesn't provide adequate parking would do nothing to resolve that inadequate parking.
Noted, absolutely. My question was more just understanding the purpose of the renovation, because the letter, the applicant clarified that it was actually going to, the renovation was to increase living space, not increase parking. And for myself, that wasn't clear initially. So, and I was curious about off-street parking and whether or not there would be an effect. But if there is adequate off-street parking, it's a non-issue. Thank you. Darius, did you have a question, please?
Yeah, I do too. So the drawing with the submitted then is not correct because it doesn't show double garage door in that side for facing the street.
So could we get a clarification on from the designer or the applicant about the garage door and the changes happening in the front facade at that front property, or the 4.53, the area that we're talking about varying here?
Yeah, drawing A 2.1, south new elevation shows the double door garage. Is it correct?
I'm not planning on having a double door garage. I am planning on having a little bit wider garage.
Yeah.
The garage door that I currently have is too narrow. So the garage door will become a little bit wider, but I'm not having a double wide driveway or expanding any of the road.
So expansion will be bedroom in this side and in the back.
Yeah, the door will look uniform with the size of the addition. It's not going to be larger or smaller. It's going to be uniform with what looks aesthetically pleasing from design aspect from the road.
Regardless, to be clear with that, there's already conflict in the setback. I don't see any additional harm going to be done there. But I was hoping to be a garage because then if the car is going to park outside, will be go in, and I actually make it nicer. But one way or another, I don't think so be making any harm for it.
Great, thank you, Dariush. Board members, comments, concerns, questions for the designer or the applicant? If there's no further discussion regarding the application, somebody could make a motion to proceed. Hi, Dariush.
The motion. Let me find the page. I moved it, the board approved application DOB 750 to vary section 7.5.3 of zoning bylaw number 4500 to reduce the required setback for a garage door facing a street from 6 meters to 4.47 meters in order to legalize the sitting and of this existing single residential building and permit the purpose addition.
Dariush, could I just have you repeat, was that to approve or deny the application? I'm sorry, it didn't come through.
Approve.
Approve, excellent, thank you. Nelson seconds that motion. Could we have a show of hands for those that support the motion to approve the application? It looks unanimous. Alan, thank you, great. So we have a unanimous approval of the application.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with your project, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Staff will follow up with you.
Oh, he's gone.
No, I'm still here.
Staff will follow up with you regarding proceeding with your building permit application.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, going back to our agenda for this evening. At this point, are we still continuing live?
Just until it's
Until we call it quits. All right. We're through the applications for this evening. Could we have a motion to adjourn the meeting for this evening? Thank you, Nelson. A seconder? Thank you, Ken. So all in favor? We'll adjourn the meeting and we can stop our live feed.